I never meant to find myself here, staring down a truth that consumes you long before you ever dare to speak it. My name is Claire, and for most of my marriage, I thought I understood what love really was. Not the kind drenched in drama and grand gestures, but the quieter sort, the kind that lingers in small kindnesses, shared habits, unspoken forgiveness, and a cup of coffee waiting for you in the morning. But lately, the silence between Ethan and me had started to feel heavy, like it was hiding something neither of us wanted to uncover. It began about a year ago, after Ethan lost his job. He came undone slowly. The man who once laughed easily began to watch me with suspicion, noticing every time I picked up my phone, every pause in conversation. He seemed desperate to control something, anything, because everything else in his life felt like it was slipping away. Money became tight, and emotions even tighter. I started working longer hours at the clinic, trying to keep us afloat. Each day blurred into exhaustion and resentment, that dangerous edge where love starts to feel like duty. That's when Ryan entered my life, a doctor I worked with. He was confident, charming, the kind of person who listens like your words actually matter. At first, it was harmless, just lunches, jokes between patients, the small camaraderie that grows between tired co-workers. But one night, after an endless shift, he offered me a ride home. That night became something I wish I could erase. He kissed me, and I froze, not out of shock, but because I felt something I hadn't in months, wanted. I didn't stop him. I should have. But loneliness has a way of bending your judgment until you mistake it for need. The guilt came the next morning, sharp and suffocating. I told myself it was a one-time mistake, something I could bury under work and silence. But Ryan didn't let it stay buried. He kept calling, texting, finding reasons to be near me when Ethan wasn't around. He'd whisper things like, "You deserve to feel alive again." And for a while, I let myself believe him. Then, everything shifted. The tenderness in his messages hardened into control. His words turned from affection to threats. "You owe me, Claire. Don't forget, I covered for you that night." That's when I finally saw him clearly. He wasn't offering me freedom. He was holding me captive in another kind of prison. I wanted to end it, but he threatened to tell Ethan. So I stayed, not because I wanted to, but because I was scared. Each time left me feeling more hollow, more detached from the person I used to be. Then came the night Ethan came home early. I was sitting at the kitchen table, shaking, trying to text Ryan to stop. Ethan walked in, saw the fear in my eyes, and knew something was wrong. He didn't shout. He didn't accuse. He just sat down across from me and asked quietly, "Claire, is there something I should know?" That question broke me. Everything I'd been hiding came pouring out. Every mistake, every reason, every moment of weakness. I told him everything. How it started, how it spiraled, how fear and guilt had worn me down until I felt like a stranger in my own skin. And then, through tears, I told him the hardest truth, that I hadn't stayed with Ryan because I wanted to, but because I thought I didn't have a choice. Ethan didn't move. He didn't yell. He just looked at me, searching for the woman he had loved in someone he barely recognized. And after a long, unbearable silence, he said quietly, "You didn't have to, Claire. You made a choice." It wasn't anger in his voice that broke me. It was the truth. They were calm, painfully, unnervingly calm. And somehow, that composure hurt more than any anger ever could. Because he was right. Beneath all the fear, beneath the guilt, there had still been a choice. And that made the truth impossible to bear. He stood up, walked to the window, his voice quiet but cutting. "If it had been a mistake, I could have forgiven you," he said. "But this wasn't a mistake. It was a silence you chose, and paid for." Then he left. No slamming doors, no shouting, just the fading sound of his footsteps down the hall, leaving behind a stillness that settled over everything and refused to leave. The weeks that followed were hollow. Ryan tried calling, but I ignored every attempt. I quit the clinic and moved in with my sister, trying to exist in smaller, quieter spaces. I wrote letters to Ethan, not asking him to forgive me, but trying to explain that fear doesn't erase betrayal. It only disguises it. He never replied. Months later, I ran into him unexpectedly, in a grocery store of all places. He looked older, steadier, like someone who had finally set down a heavy burden. When he saw me, I froze. Every instinct screamed to turn away, but he smiled, a faint, almost tender smile, tinged with sorrow. We stood there, surrounded by the hum of freezers, strangers bound by what we used to be. "I read your letters," he said after a pause. My throat tightened. Then, softly, "I understand now. You were afraid. But fear doesn't erase love, it only changes its shape." My eyes burned. "Do you hate me?" I asked. He shook his head. "No. But I can't love you the way I did before. Some things don't rebuild. You just learn to live around the cracks." That was the last time I saw him. Still, at night, his voice echoes in my mind, calm, steady, devastating in its truth. "You didn't have to. You chose to." It's a truth that still shapes me. I've learned that choices made out of fear often look like survival, but they slowly destroy you from within. I don't know if Ethan has found peace. I hope he has. He deserves the calm I never gave him. As for me, I'm learning to forgive the version of myself who thought silence was safer than honesty. If I could go back, I wouldn't beg for his forgiveness. I'd beg for courage, the courage to speak instead of hiding, to walk away before I caused damage, to reach out before I pushed everything I loved away. Life doesn't grant do-overs, it leaves echoes. And in mine, his voice still lingers, gentle, resolute, unforgettable. "You didn't have to. You chose to." That truth, painful as it is, continues to shape who I am becoming.